And we're back for another unscheduled session. Gonna take a quick look at where we are. I'd say we probably have enough ammunition for now. Time for Mr. Bookkeeper to go all the way up the chain.
Can't do that there.
And the cage numbers are still holding. Hoping we'll still get somebody who will come by to try and take a bite out of the cat. Come on, giant spider. Tavern is still hopping and the dining room is still basically empty. I don't think we ever built. Look, but I don't think we did. Pretty sure we did, actually. Yeah, we did. There's at least one right there. And the reason we're conditioning the mash job on the number of sheets is we want to make sure that as our sheets are used up, we are replacing them. Now we've set the slurry to sheet pressing to be automatic all the time, every chance they get. That means nothing will be stored as globs. Everything will be stored as sheets. Any globs we produce will immediately get used up. So we don't want to hinge the glob production on globs. We want to hinge it on the amount of sheets we have. That way we start producing globs when we need them. We stop producing globs when we don't. Based on this, we can probably go a little higher. I'm curious exactly, do we have 50 sheets? No, we don't. So we'll do 50 as a placeholder, because that will get us materials for our libraries. We have a fairly good supply of cloth making stuff. Let me double check on our cloth making. Some folks should be down here making cloth as we speak now. Yep, Yep. Let's check on the number of clothiers we have. If we don't have at least 5, we can upgrade. Whoops, wrong version. There we go. Easier on the viewer's eyes that way, I've been told. I'm okay with it. So, clothiers. We only have 2 clothiers. The other people in there are doing other stuff. Okay, so we've got, our weaving being done by our military, for example. So all the cloth is being made by military dwarves who are idle to give them something to do. And it looks like our bolt crafter has gone absolutely ripshit because he's now skill 20, which is probably why we have 14,000 bolts laying around. Need to double check and make sure we get our DACA squad onto a mass training event so we can get them burning a few of those bolts off. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, I don't see anybody that I really want to pull out of the Hauler Corps at the moment. Got a couple good hunters here who would be good in the military squad, but at this point, everybody that's in that squad's been training for a while, so we're just going to leave them. I could swap out a couple of these nobodies who didn't learn anything, but forget it. Put them to work. Speaking of which, wanted to test that we in fact do have 2 pages of orders. This should be 10, but I want to make sure I counted them correctly so I can use the 2 as a symbol that we're going back and forth between the pages and then edit it properly to be the one that it should be. I wanted to check on that because it was bothering me that I didn't make sure that we had the correct number of orders. So now all of you guys are military. Let's make sure everybody's assigned to a squad. Because I'm pretty sure Dwarf Therapist says you're all assigned, but it looks like some of you aren't actually in your squad. It's like a 10 choppers, 10 archers, 10 spearmen, but nobody actually, see, like these 3 or 4 guys aren't actually on duty. That's interesting. Could have put the academic in the military for a bit. That would have been fun. Okay, now that everybody's assigned to their appropriate squads and will begin doing the training they should have been doing all along, we should see some more progression on those folks who are lagging behind a little bit. We lost a bunch of that Swamp Titan, and I think I assigned them to the labors, but never actually put them into the military squad to designate that they needed to train. So if that's working correctly, then we should start to see some archers come along and do archery, and spearmen and axemen doing their chopping and stabbing in the barracks. We should be getting a lot more progression on military skills now. Realistically, I don't think anyone actually climbed those ramps to any effect because there's no way to get in through the fortifications. But we've got a staircase, so we might as well make sure everybody's trying to use that. For those of you who are longtime Dwarf Fortress players, there's currently a thread out there on the Dwarf Fortress General Discussion on Bay 12 forums. Three Toe and Toady are apparently looking for discussion of the stress system, and for those of you folks who've been watching my VODs for any length of time this year during our Extra Life event, you know that we've demonstrated several issues using Dwarf Therapist to look at Dwarven mind states, tracking stressful events that aren't wearing off, small numbers of stressful events that are overwhelming large numbers of positive events, and the general descent of dwarves towards depression rather than towards normalcy. If you are a longtime player and you have thoughts about how the stress system might be working inappropriately, I encourage you to go out and visit this thread and make your comments known. I'll encourage folks again tonight at 8, but there's some of you folks who are on different time zones or who only see us when we're doing these unscheduled streams, and I figure it's probably a good idea to talk to you guys too. Problem is that some folks are running very short forts, say a couple of years long, and then calling that good when a couple of dwarves go mad after one siege, but not realizing that that stress is continuing to accumulate for years and years and years, such that 10 or 15-year forts start to have serious problems. Even with a fort as delicately laid out as this one, stress is still being felt by our dwarves, in my opinion, in excess of where it should be. I noticed that dwarves have difficulty meeting their various conflicting needs, even when they're on not relentless schedules. If I put them on one month training and 2 months off, I see them routinely failing to meet basic needs because they're doing other things instead, or something that they favor instead of the thing that they're complaining about. He's upset that he can't socialize, but he spends all his time in the library reading books because that's what he wants to do. It's not what he complains about, though. Socialization, they already know, is broken, such that dwarves are only socializing if they're adjacent to one another rather than diagonally, and they have to be touching in order to socialize at all. There's some real weird broken socialization rules that they've actually admitted to. But there's a problem, in my opinion, is that there's a problem with the stress mechanic where negative thoughts seem to outweigh positive thoughts. Those of you who watched my prior year streams would know, of course, that one of the first things we would do is trick out our dining room, because at the time that was how you managed dwarven stress. You got a legendary dining room and you just wrote stress off. I don't expect stress management to be that simple. That seems obviously silly and, kind of not fun, really, when you get down to it. That's just fire and forget on stress management. But at the same time, we're living in basically the lap of dwarven luxury. Well-stocked temple, library, tavern, archery ranges and military squads. Everything you could possibly want in terms of basic needs is here and met, such that, we're running around with 2,000 prepared meals and 2,000 drinks in the stockpile. What we're finding is dwarves are torqued because they can't eat their particular type of food. Not, hey, I'm mostly happy because I ate a good steak, but I'm kind of bummed that I couldn't eat lobster. Instead, it's just I'm kind of bummed that I couldn't eat lobster, and they completely discount the food. And that's just one of many. There's a great number of these systems that need to be revisited for how they impact the stress system, and they have more or less been discounted to date. Oh, Abu Xavier, if you're trying to catch up, you are way behind. We started on October 1st, and we were averaging just shy of 4 hours a day. We're going to be well over that average, I suspect, by the time we hit game day. But we've been averaging about 4 hours a day. We're on day 29. You've got something like 116 hours to catch up with, ballpark. Just this year. If you go back and watch prior years, there's another, depending on which streams you've been watching, there could be a couple hundred hours more to catch up on. Don't forget to vote in the straw poll below the stream. Viewers have the opportunity to determine what tile set I will use for game day. People who are out on the Dwarf Fortress subreddit have to visit the stream to find the link to vote.
I can't do it.
Hey, come to think of it, I don't think I named someone for you. Don't worry, you're not one of the first 7 there where you took care of that. You're just one of the migrants. We still have one of our starting 7 available for those of you who want to donate at least $25 or more. $10 or more and I'll name a migrant after you. And remember, that's not just for this fort. That's every fort for the remainder of the event. Those folks who donated on day 1 have been in every fort all the way through. Not just to pop up on stream. You get immortalized in video. We'll see. I just think it's funny that we're commenting that a Year 3 Fortress has all the available alcohols types that dwarves could possibly want. I don't think at Year 3 I could reliably have a source of alcohol of every type, no matter what I did. I could turn on Fast Dwarf and trade for everything they brought me, and I don't think I could maintain us, and then immediately process the seeds into farm plots, and I don't think I could get to the point where I had reliably every type of fruit and plant booze available. I just think the stress system needs a serious in-depth review in the use case of long-term forts. If you're playing and you're not running your fort past about 5 years, you're not going to notice the problem. You're not going to have a problem. If your fort is reasonably well designed, sees to basic dwarven needs, and doesn't run past 5 years, you're probably never going to have a problem. If you're running a 20-year fort at maximum population, you're going to start to see the problem. We artificially jacked our dwarves up to maximum happiness, and already 11 of them have started to fall off below the range, and we'll start to see them descend back down. The problem is that once they get back to normalcy, whatever negative thoughts they've got will completely throw them over here to the other side. They're not gonna remain at normalcy. They don't descend to normalcy. It appears like they just keep descending.
Winter is at hand.
And now that we've got the archers on a much more rigorous training schedule, of course, we're starting to see them train more often. We should see our stocks of bolts start to decline. At least a little. We have thousands of bolts for them to expend. Now that's intentional on my part. I want those thousands of bolts because long term, I prefer to graduate the civilians into a rudimentary crossbow militia. They can be stationed behind barricades where it's safe and simply machine gun the enemy down with their numerous bolts.
Why do you think I can do this?
Each one isn't going to hit squat, but if you fire enough bolts, some of them are going to get lucky. Additionally, having all those civilians present means that the Marks dwarves have some cover in the form of additional bodies to soak up shots. So you hide the good guys in the middle of the average guys, and suddenly there's some really nasty stuff. It's like setting snipers in the middle of your machine gun nest. Sure, the machine gun might not hit anything. The guy operating it is half blind, and, we're not even sure he's aiming the right direction. But you got to get through him to get the guy behind him that's plugging every shot.
No.
And unfortunately for goblins, hand grenades are not a thing.
Sorry, sir, I can't do it.
Hey, and I had a thought about the stress system while I was out there commenting on it on the Bay 12 forums. It's odd to me that this game doesn't model any type of intoxicants for any race at all outside of alcohol. Booze is the only intoxicant in the game. This flies in the face of what we know about centuries of human history, let alone what hypothetically might apply to goblins or elves or dwarves. You're telling me kobolds don't get stoned? I don't buy it. Why do you think they spend their entire lives sitting around in caves and stealing what they can? Got to pay for their next fix. Kobolds are junkies, man. But it occurs to me that this would be another way to help resolve the stress problem. Just like in RimWorld, there'd be downsides. It's not like, giving your dwarves pipeweed is going to suddenly, make everything better. You're going to end up with sluggish dwarves who spend a little too much time smoking and not enough time, focusing on what they need to be focused on. Perhaps the humans sell intoxicants that the dwarves find irresistible, but which have significant negative consequences. Without getting all modern inner city on the whole problem, it still looks like an opportunity to redress some of the stress system's deficiencies in the long term, as well as to model various cultural behavior that to date Dwarf Fortress has not yet really modeled. We're growing mushrooms, but none of them are hallucinogenic?
Sorry, I can't do it, sir.
Toady really needs to go back and add a method for Fortress Dwarves to envenom their weapons, for example. I can't believe we're growing all these mushrooms and none of them are outright toxic. Besides, I want to be able to buy that barrel of bumblebee venom and put it on my weapons. And then make jokes about stinging things. It's okay, I'm old. I'm allowed. I think we need to expand our ammo stockpile. The one near the archer range is full, and I'm kind of talking and not doing. So let me go in here and build another little room. And we'll use this to store bolts. That keeps them on the range without wandering so far away, because it's a long trip around to get to here. And if we store some locally, we're more likely to get them to use them, as opposed to wandering to these. This is closer. And as before, since it's a room dwarves are going to use, I'll smooth it out. Later I'll engrave it.
Sir, you can't do that there.
Why do you think I can do this?
Let's see if that limits out the number of cancellations we're getting. If that's the case, then we can minimize some of that. Spam. Needs flux stone. Okay, so let's go into the job manager and we'll limit those down. And we have to leave this condition here for now, but later we can remove this. Just like with the limonite, we can remove that condition later. I think I'm just going to start adding the reagent conditions because it looks like to me that's probably going to cut down on about 90% of the spam we see. It'll mean we can't use things like our last 10 flux stones or our last 10 stones. They'll hang around indefinitely if we don't mine more, because I've told it that not to do it unless we have 10. But that's okay. Realistically, if we get that low on stone, we need to be producing more. If we get that low on ore, we need to be producing more. If we get that low on logs, we need to be producing more. We should be having a surplus. We should have a stockpile. That's the whole point of having stockpiles, is to have a set of items collected to make these with. Remember, we're not making them unless they exceed a certain number, unless we're doing them as a limited job. So it's not producing indefinitely. It's only producing a certain number and then stopping. Now these are infinite jobs the way we've set them up, so we're going to condition them a little differently. We're going to condition them to only do one, because somebody will reserve the job and that's the end of it. Once somebody reserves it, there aren't a number available. At that point, the condition fails for everybody else doing the job. And I'm starting to see how I'm going to use this in our next fort to better effect. Oh, that's interesting. I can't add reagents to this. I can only add... And yet it would need a bag. So it really is just boxes and bags. The problem is that in order to do this, I have to specify, and I have to do a limited number of each. So I'd have to do one collect sand job for pigtail plants, and one collect sand job for silk, and then one collect sand job for yarn, and then one collect silk job for leather, in order to ensure that bags of any given type were acceptable for the sand job. I'm not sure if the 150 globs required is literal or whether that's Dwarf Fortress doing a sub-measurement in the same way that hospitals do for thread, cloth. I'll do you one better than that. I have all the save games for all the forts I've done. It should be possible, I would think, to export the collective set of them with a small description file that lets everybody know what was what, which forts we used roughly on which days. At which point, anybody who wanted could pick up any one of the forts we were playing with and carry them out from there. There's probably some goofs and gotchas if you look close enough at any of the forts I've run. I'm by no means a perfect player. But if you're really serious about getting back into the game, part of the 33-day event was really kind of getting me some additional practice with the game, because it's been a while since I've spent a significant amount of time with it. I know the basics inside and out from, many, many years of repeating them. But some of the newer features like taverns and temples, and I'm still kind of playing around with them and seeing what works and what doesn't. Best, if you will. I tend to lag on defenses, as you've noticed. Which results in dwarves going out to fight things that they shouldn't have to fight. But we should have... Oh, that's right. We were still in the process of getting our magma forges up, weren't we? Yes, we were. Let's go take a look. Because once that's done, we can go back and remove coal as a reagent for a lot of these jobs. Now, not steel manufacture. That requires coal regardless. Ah, yes. Nice and full, right below our little 1x1s. Now, the downside is we're going to get an absolute crap ton of cancellations. If I'd been thinking, I would have dug this floor out faster before we actually went down to do the magma chamber. But initially I was hoping that this could be our workshop and that this would be our magma chamber, and that didn't work out so good. So we're going to improvise. We're going to use this for our 4 separate areas. Kilns, and we'll probably make a smaller number of kilns and use that for overflow. We have clay, but I don't remember. Do we have fire clay? I didn't think we did, but I need to double check. I mean, we have sandy clay loam, and peat doesn't count. Sorry, Pete. Loamy sand. I know we've got sand, because that's damp sand right there. Silt loam, sand. And then, what do we got here? Is that fire clay? Loam, white sand. And now we're into claystone and dolomite. And I don't want to mess with glazing, really. That's kind of a personal choice. We can make ash and we can therefore glaze. But it's generally something I don't mess with. If I don't have fire clay, I just don't bother with clay. It's not worth the extra hassle of making earthenware and then having to glaze it. It's accurate enough, but it's kind of a pain. So unless we had fire clay, probably just not going to happen. Let's see what Prospect says. Let's see if it shows fire clay on the list. No, we don't have fire clay. So theoretically, I think the sandy clay loam technically qualifies. But I'd have to look. Certain materials have the name but don't qualify. Realistically, if a source had enough of the material to merit the name, if it had enough clay in it to call it clay anything, then theoretically you should be able to build up a washing operation to sort out the loam and the clay. We've got screw pumps. We can move water. If we can move water, we can separate soils by their particle size. We don't necessarily need a HEPA filter for that. You can use serialized water tanks. The heavier particles settle first, and the later particles settle later, and you mix them back together, and you'll get your clay. Just let the water dry out. A similar process is used to clarify drinking water, but you could use it to separate out the exact materials you wanted from water and clay or water and soil. The reason it's not done in the modern world is it's not cost efficient, but like I said, any soil that's clay enough to merit the name, you could wash it for sand, you could wash it for clay. Might take a lot of work, I grant.
I'm going to keep this thing.
The dwarves can make powered pumps that run indefinitely. So do we not have... Let's check our military equipment here. Let's see. Do you guys all have... Yes, you all have crossbows. Check on your ammunition for the squad. Bolts, and I don't care what kind. Combat training, that's perfect. Hunters, I can actually kick your reserve up a little bit. If we've got 10 hunters and they're all carrying the minimum 25 bolts, then this reserves 250 bolts or a full quiver for each. And our archers continue to train. So even the folks who had no skill a minute ago have already started to gain some, and at this point, most of the folks have at least a minimum amount, with the folks who started out with the skill ahead of the others. Let's set them back to a 2 on, 1 off schedule. They don't gain skill quite as fast as the melee dwarves do, because sparring is more or less as effective once they start doing it as live combat, because they can spar often, regularly, and continuously. And make sure our chopper squad is doing likewise. Okay.
Yes, yes. I see it all now. It's
Oh boy, another possession. What's he gonna do? He's claimed it. What's he gonna make? Let's watch. Checking to make sure he didn't already have something there tasked. Whatever he brings back first is going to be the basic essence of what he's going to make. If he brings back a log, it's going to be made of wood. If he brings back a stone, it's going to be made out of stone. Looks like we're getting a stone crafter mood of some sort here. Yep, made out of mica. This is a mica earring. All of the construction is of the finest quality. It will go in the library like all of the other artifacts.
Why do you think I can do this?
Rumors of museum chambers on the far side of the Lucid Vault, inaccessible to anyone but citizens of the site, are pure rumor and speculation and should be discounted immediately. Such rooms do not exist. And if they did, we wouldn't tell you about them anyway.
I can't do that there.
It won't work.
So let's see. We are out of rope reed seeds because we probably don't have enough rope reed. Still need a little flux. Need some barrels, which we can do with pots. Okay. The rope reed thing is just a pure number. I think we probably are just at the point where we don't have any seeds because we simply have planted and harvested it all. What's our rope reed count at? 290, waiting to be processed. think we have enough shops for that. Let me check. Yep, we can go all the way to 3. Okay. And now the problem is that although we can go all the way to 3, we need to make some bags. And we'll start making bags out of silk because our pressers are going to be trying to press. Yeah, it says I need 150 glob, but I don't know how much 150 glob actually is here. Hang on, let's check. We have 836 glob. Are you telling me we don't have enough glob? Most of it's tallow, though. Ugh, that would explain it. You can't do the pressing on the tallow, can you? Odd. The jobs are not landing at the screw press, but they are done in the manager. There they are, no linked shop, but they've been approved, so we should be mashing rope reeds and other plants into slurry. Ugh, do we only mash at querns? That's right. We only do that out of slurry. We only do that at mills. So let them do their thing. Okay, our stone crafter is off and running. Yeah, we can produce it faster than our dwarves are using it, so we need to stop producing bolts for a bit.
No, I
I'll let
can't
them
do it.
produce the bone ones. Need to get the bone crafters some skill.
I can't do it. It won't work.
Okay, and with querns, we're up and doing paper making now. Which should generate the seeds we need to plant the rope reed that everybody's whining about.
Why do you think I can do this? I can't do it.
Now ammunition will flow into this stockpile unless there's a gap in the combat stockpile, in which it will flow into the combat stockpile. So once this is full, we'll start filling into our training stocks. And realistically, I don't care what type they are. I don't differentiate between combat bolts and training bolts. Pretty sure there's an AI bug with that at the moment anyway. The combat bolts are those where they're going to use them in combat close by. So I'm thinking when I export them, I'll export the initial save and the final save for each region that we do. And I'll try to archive them as much compression as I can and get them down as small as possible.
I can't do it.
No, you don't. No. It goes in the rooms that don't exist, like all the other things that we've never created. And that completes a chamber. In the center of these 8 pedestals is a chair. Anyone who comes in to look at something for any reason. Stops in the center square. They get credit for looking at all the others around them as well. And we'll set up small museums as we fill up the number of artifacts in our fort. And eventually, if we need more space, we'll just expand this. These little 3x3 rooms will each hold up to 8 artifacts, and we'll just keep expanding as needed. They're on the far side of a library no one is allowed to visit except citizens. So no one is going in to see our artifacts. Seems like the kind of thing you could charge admission for.
I can't do it.
I see how we're going to put this to much better use in our next fort and explain it better for everyone to boot.
see what I did with this? I'm gonna hang on to this.
And here we have one of the reasons why I prefer to do a brook and not a stream. When winter comes, let's say you've got your fishing area set up just like I do here. Winter comes along. If you've got grates over the stream and floors or bridges over the stream to prevent intrusion, the freezing water will dislodge your grate. When it thaws in spring, your grate will fall to the bottom of the river and leave a hole. True story. Brooks have a permanent structure on top of them. They're not intended to represent something deep enough to actually really fish in unless you were looking for crayfish and minnows. Okay, dude, start entertaining. I'm going to appoint 3... Oh, look at that. There's a tree in our way. And to prevent that, as soon as that tree's cut, we're going to exploit a little trick.
I can't do that there.
And I think we're going to do something real quick. I think I'm going to save the game real fast. I'm going to pop out and change my pop cap. And we'll come back in. We're running at a decent pop cap right now. Let's see if I can get us up a little closer to 200. So we're going to tweak it for just a moment. That'll allow us to get either migrants or babies above our current cap. And since the soft cap and the hard cap are the same, we won't go over 200 no matter what. If it turns out that we start to take a massive frame rate hit, I'll cut it down, but we've got some things we can do to alleviate frame rate losses. Currently, we could crush some of the excess garbage we've got. We could seal off any old mining areas that aren't in use. think at this point we've got a lot that are still kind of in use at the moment, but we're still kind of probing some of these for potential mines that can be excavated. You know, like those. That. Okay, and these ones marked ready for split down here at the bottom are actually ready to produce in this case. Oh, it's almost time for the great harvest. The peacocks are growing up. The tinkling sound you hear is the sound of peacocks about to being slaughtered. Yes, my minions, rise, age, grow fat. I still don't think we've actually gotten the damn grizzlies to do their thing. Man, I'll bet in the current version with the way Tony's got it, I'll bet this isn't close enough anymore. I'll bet you have to cage them like right on top of one another. Enter the breeding chamber. Designed to house two until there's a pregnancy, and then you move them back to the other chamber. Oh yes, the meat stockpile will expand. $500 was plenty when we had a fairly narrow number of dwarves, but now we've expanded our number of dwarves and we need to likewise expand our drink production.
I can't do it. I just can't.
And eventually the miners will get around to this and we'll build a tiny little pasture in here specifically to house animals while we're trying to get them to breed. I have a pair of mated grizzlies. Of course, it's an asexual male. Because of course it is.
Ugh, I won't do it.
And to quote Fight Club, I wanted to put a bullet between the eyes of every war grizzly that wouldn't screw to save its species. Look at all that tasty, tasty iron. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. 4 bars per ore. Delicious. Let's run to the bottom of the world now. Because we really still haven't dealt with our problem here. Unfortunately, we're going to get enormous numbers of job cancellations. Every bloody tile we're going to designate from now until the end of the fort is hot. Now we can kind of cheat this by designating these as squares as we've done, or as circles for use with DF, with dig circle. In this case, I think the squares will be fine. It's just we'll require to manually redesignate every surface with every excavation, because every time they're going to let me know that it's warm. And every time I'm going to have to tell them, it's okay guys, it's okay. The truth is we don't really know. We think it's okay. We think there's no magma over there. We know there's magma over there somewhere. It kind of eventually comes around, right? But it comes around, looks like it comes around no further than about right there. And our prior excavation out to this distance didn't hit anything, and so far the only warm stone we found is right here. So unless there's another magma chamber like this one that we're going to wing sideways at some point, in which case we'll abandon this floor and go up another couple floors until we get it right. until we get one that's not there. Now I can work around that by hacking it in with reveal. We can just do a reveal real quick to see what the stone and the magma contents look like, and then designate around them. If you want your Magma Forge to be perfect first time, for example, if you're trying to minimize your hit to frame rate, it's worth considering it. We'll do it legitimately here because I'm planning to run a long fort for the 24-hour stream. We'll probably do it perfectly there. But yeah, at the end of the event, I'll definitely export the forts. No big. Like I said, first and last save. Readmes with game seeds, maybe. We'll see. Don't know if I saved the game seed for all of them. That's kind of why I want to export the maps. I want people to be able to retrieve the seeds. Come on, miners, let's roll the dice.
No.
And we'll designate a big area for herbalism, so those folks who want to do that can come up and do a little surface time. It's another reason why it's good to have your military in doing the herbalism jobs. They'll come to the surface to do that, and when they do, they will be exposed to the sun and remove some of their cave adaptation. Now, I kind of wonder about the impact of... So let's take a look here. And keeping in mind, we hacked a couple of our dwarves to maximum health, or maximum happiness, to avoid some of the stress here. Self-pity at being unable to wander for too long. Don't know why they can't wander. I don't even think I have them in a burrow, but I'll double check. Even if I do, that's not a big deal. Loneliness after being away from friends. Loneliness after being away from family, which I can't control because they've moved to my fortress away from their family. Self-pity after a lack of abstract thinking. I've got a library. All they got to do is go use it. Self-pity after being able to practice a martial art. Okay, that's a little tougher. I'd have to throw everybody into a military squad. Dejection after a lack of decent meals for too long. Well, it's not. Why are you dejected over the lack of decent meals? We've got thousands of prepared roasts. Thousands. So these things will never go away. Because realistically, this dwarf probably likes something like bumblebee brains for meals. I'll never get rid of that. The self-pity after being martial art, I'll be able to get rid of. But these others, abstract thinking, all the rest of this, they went to the temple, but they didn't go to the library. And I can't make them go to the library. A lot of times the temple takes priority, so they go to the temple instead of the library, and they get happy about the temple, but then they get upset about the library. Their conflicting needs, they're not managing them very well. Away from friends and family, there's nothing I can do. They moved here. They were either exiled or whatever from friends and family. Maybe there needs to be a mail service. Dwarven Pony Express. To contact friends and family. Maybe you could send expeditions as mail carriers to communicate to friends and family so that dwarves can get a response back and stop worrying about their friends and family all the time. Yes, Mom, I'm fine. I moved into the most awesome fort ever. No, Mom, I really don't want you to come and visit. Yes, Mom, I understand it's the most awesome fort ever, but no, Mom, I really don't want you to come and live with us. I don't know, just a thought. We've got expeditions. It seems like, you know, that would incentivize players to live close to their dwarven civilization, because then you'd run the risk of being too far away and your dwarves not being able to make the trip from one place to the other. The Pony Express literally not having enough stops along the route. And our miners still haven't come down here. What are they doing?
No.
Oh, we've only got 4. Let's rectify that. Too easy for them all to be idle at once. Plus, if we're going to lose one, why not one of the sacrificial miners who doesn't have any skill at the job yet?
Why do you think I can do this? I can't do it. It won't work.
Okay, so let's talk about, now that that tree is down, how we stop tree growth in this area. Now, you could floor this over, you could pave a road, but there's a cheap, easy way to do it. Set up a stockpile with custom stockpile and set the custom settings to disallow everything, and then go into additional options and block everything. That allows nothing in this stockpile, and that's exactly what we want. Go ahead and draw the stockpile just like you normally would. And we'll go up here. We don't want to go through our farm area because I've got a gap or two in there, and the stockpile will fill them, and I don't want to try and pick out what's what later. So I've got to kind of go around the outside here, and the stockpile will just get drawn. Remember, it doesn't allow anything to be contained here, so anything that's here will get carried away, or needs to be carried away. And presto! Because there's a stockpile, this entire area is treated as having a building, and nothing will grow there. The end.
No.
It also looks nice from above.
I can't do that there.
almost enough. We've only got 8 spikes. I want the full Monty. I want 10 spikes. Uh-oh.
Sir, a baby's been born.
Oh, that's just great. Another mouth to feed.
Perfect. Now their first mining job will actually punch through all the walls that separate the hallway from the room. At which point we can designate the room over and over and over. Like I said, the order of the day is going to be Job Cancellation Central. Our miners are going to be down here canceling jobs all over the place. Okay. I'd kind of like to know how he got in. But, okay. This will give the military something to do. The end. Probably that guy, too, but we'll see.
I can't do that there.
That's how they're getting in. There we go. Now that's nice and sealed up. And a big fuck you to Mr. Magma Crab down there downstairs floating around in our magma pond.
No.
Now, we might still have to whack him because realistically he's going to potentially be exposed when we do the channeling to allow our magma forges to operate.
No, it
But
won't
we'll
work.
see. Close enough. I'm going to stick a food and drink stockpile down here. they're busy digging out all those veins of juicy minerals, and then they'll go downstairs and dig out the forage area all at once.
It won't work.
Can't do that there.
I can't do it. Sorry, I can't do it, sir.
I can't do that there.
The number is increasing, but it's not quite a full farm plot yet.
Sorry, sir, I can't do it.
And now we've got the skilled miners down here. Progress will now be made.
No, I can't do it.
Wow, wasting no time there, huh, Berenice? Yeah, wasting no time. No gauntlets, no high boots. Okay, I'm not exporting any of those anyway, so that's fine with me. Mine, my little slaves, mine! Label on the box says you're dwarves, but I'm going to treat you like podlings.
It won't work. No. I said no. No.
Almost done with the eventual ore stockpile. We'll put a small flux stone stockpile off to the side here. Which reminds me, I should probably just say, oh no, I already did. Oh good. And we need to make that restricted, because any more dolomite we produce, we need to be using as well dolomite. Likewise, any marble. Looks like we've got marble. And we'll now restrict those stones to those tasks. Nope, we're canceling that. Okay, guys, it is 3 o'clock, and I am going to call it here for this afternoon. We will be back tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern to resume with this fort as a continuing part of our 33-day series, culminating in a 24-hour live stream at 8 a.m. Eastern on Saturday, all to raise money for Children's Miracle Network hospitals. Down below the stream, you can find a link, which will link you to the charity in question. All of the money collected there is going to help sick kids. None of it comes to me. I don't get it. I don't want it. It's there to help sick kids. Your donations go to help people like me do the things that we do. 40 years ago, I was a patient at one of these hospitals myself. If you have a moment in the means, please take a moment and donate. Thank you. And I'll see you tonight at 8 p.m.